Hello and welcome. My name is Bianca Martinez, as well as your host this evening.
And welcome to Eres Tea Talks, where we spill the tea on taboo topics affecting our community.
So we're talking a lot about intergenerational trauma, but I also want to name that there's generation, our trauma that we're experiencing right now.
Healing looks differently for different people, and even what may be considered traumatic to one person may not be traumatic to another.
And so what can we expect healing to look like? We've already talked about how it's not a linear course, right? So what could it look like, and what does it even mean to heal? And I know that's such a large question, but I feel like because the word's being tossed around, we kind of need to find a way to define it in a way that's not restrictive, but can kind of get people oh, okay, when someone says they're healing, maybe that might not kind of be there, or maybe it is for them, but it is totally okay that it looks this way for me.
It's not a destination.
No.
I'm going to be healed. It's a process, and the mourning process when you lose someone, you may go into shock, you may laugh even. You may have responses that are not deemed appropriate, and then you go a year and you're on all types of triggers, and then you can go into whatever that looks like. I think, and then you are healing and healed, and then it pops up again. Mm-hmm. And then randomly, and you're feeling it like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think it's a process, and I think we have to allow for diversity and accept how it's coming up in ourselves. So if I am depressed or really sad, letting me experience that emotion as opposed to oppressing it. Yes. So it's all right, if I get depressed, now I'm pissed off that I'm depressed, and now I'm mad that I'm pissed off that I'm depressed. And so instead of just dealing with the depression, I'm dealing with my reaction to, and then my response to my reaction of what I'm actually experiencing, as opposed to just allowing what it is to be. And when I am allowing that, to sit with my anger, to sit with my disappointment or pain or suffering or thing that needs to be healed, I'm able to move through it in a different way. So I think it looks differently for different people. I don't think that there's one way of healing. And I think that we should offer ourselves some compassion and non-judgment in the ways that we heal. I'm committed to decolonization. I'm committed to healing process. And I'm committed to the liberation of myself. And I'm committed to being an example and leading by example. And so when I focus my energy in that way, whether that's the placebo effect or self-fulfilling prophecy or law of attraction or whatever that is, I am more likely of manifesting that self. So really having intention. I intend to release myself of the suffering that I've been attaching myself. So yes, positive affirmations can help for some, and really reframing, thinking about things differently can affect our lens and then affect our responses, and it can be a reaction to putting yourself carrying yourself in a certain way, and holding yourself accountable for ways of being. Have you ever done the do not complain for 24-hour challenge? How are we using, we may be disappointed in something, but do we have to vocalize that? Do we have to focus our energy?
Do we have to speak that into existence?
Yeah. So to kind of, I think it's a lifestyle, and is that something you're willing to work on? Yeah. Are you willing to work on yourself, to improve yourself? Who are you competing against? Who are you?
You should only be competing against yourself.
Absolutely. Like the only person, I mean, we're all different. It's so problematic to be comparing yourself with other, and it's easy to scroll and see, oh my, look at
compare
look at
healing
social
journeys too.
Media, we're in a time where there's a lot of pressure, but letting things go and practicing letting go. And just because I let go of something doesn't mean it's not going to return again. But what I find that the more I'm able to let go, the easier it becomes. And similar to heartbreaks, that now I know, okay, when I get my heart broken, that I'm going to lose my appetite and I'm going to not be able to, and I'm going to lose interest in the things that I found joy in. And okay, this is a part of my process. Now that I know myself to have experienced that type of response to this pain that manifests in the way it does in my body, I'm able to move. The next time my heart got broken, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy.
Or you'll see how you're going to react.
And I was able to move through. Oh, I was able to fall in love again. Oh,
yes.
It even like in the moment, it's like, how will I ever find love like that? And no love is the same, or no orgasm is the same. I don't know. What if they're all different? And not to limit myself. I have to not sabotage myself. I have to stop using things that don't help progress or liberate me in ways that I want to manifest in the future. I have to unlearn myself and how I've been conditioned. I've been racialized as this. I've been conditioned to be this. And I have to figure out what that means for me and how to move through. So
it's a journey.
It's a journey, and may the force be with you, and the force is with you.
And also with you.
Tune into that. And it's okay to reach out for help, and it's okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yes.
And I had to give myself permission to not be okay sometimes. And knowing that dark, in the darkness is where I can also appreciate the light. But in the darkness, I'm also able to be aware of certain things that I wasn't. And in that,
There's less distraction in the
that's a
darkness.
part of the healing too. Yeah. It's not just like, oh, and this is what happiness is.
And I know that's the misconception with so many people talking about healing. They're just like, oh, I have to be positive. Oh, I have to and it's part of it. But there are parts where I look in the mirror and I hate myself. There are parts where I do say negative things. There are parts where I'm crying and it's ugly and it's dark and it's just kind of like, I don't know, who would want to crawl in this hole with me, and people just, I feel like, especially now, are having such a huge misunderstanding that it has to be rainbows and butterflies, and it's like the journey is not. If it is for you, awesome.
The healing is release.
But at the end of the day, not so much for most people.
Yeah, and I think that in particular it deals with the ways in which we do or don't see ourselves as worthy of those emotions,
or conditioned
to be able to express it. Like, I know I can count on one hand how many times I've seen my mother cry. One hand, right? But it's not that she doesn't cry, she doesn't let me see it.
Yes.
Right? So she releases, but she, isolates herself. So I'm in a corner, as an adult, Mom, you ain't gotta hide all that high. Because that's my girl. But then my dad actually has a lot of healthier, I don't want to put my mother in that kind of light, but my dad is more transparent with his messy. Which I appreciate, having a father growing up like that, because then that allows me to pick that up in the men that show up in my life and to see where they are trying to perform to this idea of masculinity and not be vulnerable. So I think that a lot of us, in terms of being embodied, sometimes we don't get allowed to be in the conversation of healing. We get prescribed to it, we get told to do it, but then we don't get involved in the how of what that looks like. So then it looks like rainbows and butterflies on Instagram and all the hashtags in the world, but then it doesn't actually, what sells in this moment of wellness and healing being prioritized, and I'm gonna use those words in the sense of like the capitalistic frame of like, just get you this incense and get you this crystal and then do this, and like A plus B plus C equals ta-da, congratulations, you've been healed. But then I'm also like, that's not even honoring the ways in which, like, if we're talking about sage, like that doesn't honor the way that sage has been harvested. If we're talking about Palo Santo only gets the smell that it does when that tree has died, right? So if we're talking about moments of darkness, I love Palo Santo just for that imagery and that reminder that there's some things that will be birthed in death. And if we think about this in the sense of like cycles in the womb and the tomb and how that's across spirituality, that's across faiths, that kind of thinking for me has been really good for those moments where I've been like in the dark, or I've been in the dark side of my own emotion or the dark side of my own moon, and being like, well, how did I get here again? Like, okay, I clearly didn't learn what I've been looking around like, I didn't learn the lesson. Okay, I bet I'm gonna write about it. I'm gonna write about it, and I'm gonna be like, yo, this is messy. Is anybody else feel messy? Because I feel messy. And then naming that I'm at a point of bravery to name my messiness has been a lot of my healing. And also just to, especially if we're talking about those moments of darkness, I want to name that, at least for me, those are usually the better moments for me to do the work. So then by the time I get back out in the light, all the work that I was doing in the dark to heal myself pops out. And then everyone's like, oh my God, Veronica, so you're a healer and you do these little, I'm like, yeah, but I was doing it when you weren't looking. I was doing it when you weren't looking, and I was doing it in a way that didn't allow you to consume my healing or consume my energy or consume it in the name of your own healing. Because that's another thing. When people identify you as someone that can, quote, heal the people, quote, that means that they'll be in your DMs and your mentions like, oh, can you do this for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And there's no reciprocity, right? So there's an abundance of people that are doing this work. Good news. But that also means that there are an abundance of people that are, since there's such an abundance of people that are seeking it, right? Which is good news. People were realizing that they need to complicate and add different tools to their healing toolkit after they've named that they need one.
Right.
But that also means for people that are on their journey of healing, that people can pop up unannounced. And then we've been talking a lot about compassion. Something that's been helping me is that compassionate boundary of like, I can't do that because I'm doing this for myself. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do that. So what that usually looks like for me when people say, oh, Veronica, when are you doing another Healing Through Writing workshop? I'm like, I'm not doing that right now because I've got X, Y, and Z on the books. But I know this person in your neighborhood. I know this person. I know this healing space. So I won't do I won't shut it down completely. Yeah. But I'll like compassionately say, if you're coming to me seeking healing, I'm going to need you to understand the ways in which I am actively healing myself. So there's ways in which I can offer things that I've used for myself. But then there's also ways where I'm going to shut down. I'm going to be like, nope, I have to go internal. And I need to be back in the dark again. Because if I keep doing this in the sense of running around, I'll deplete myself in the name of healing, which is then the opposite of what the whole process is supposed to be, right? We talk about you can't pour from an empty cup. Like you can't prioritize wellness if you yourself aren't well. As spirit is like, ding. So...
And as I continue to learn and understand intergenerational trauma through like my own mental health experiences, how would you guys say that impacts like Caribbean and Caribbean Latinx women specifically in today's society?
When you think about Caribbean and like Caribbean Latinx folks, like understanding the ways in which the Caribbean is the name of the sea or the body of water that carries a lot of these stories.
when narratives are very scripted and limited and there's only so many options, we're blocking off all potential ways of knowing, being, and existing.
What are, some pathways that you guys can list concretely, particularly for Caribbean Latinx women, that they can begin to research, they could look for, they can attempt to reconnect? If there's anything you feel that we missed or you'd like to share, please leave a comment below.
Again, thank you. And thank you to our audience and our followers for joining us today. As always, follow us on Instagram at eres, eres.uyou, on Facebook at eres, 3s.u, and definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a comment.